Listen closely, because this is going to be a lot of information shared really quickly. So when we think of a radio, we all have a general understanding that there's not a little concert going on inside the radio, but rather by tuning the radio in a particular way, the radio is being tuned into frequencies that are all around us, that are sort of on this plane that we can't perceive, but by tuning that radio in a certain way, it's able to tune into that frequency, which is being transmitted by the radio station that's sending it out. And the radio tunes into that frequency and is able to translate that frequency into music. So there's this sort of, the radio station is emitting this frequency, which is these sort of like waves of these electronic waves going through the air that we can't see, but the radio is built in such a way where when you tune it, it can pick up and receive those frequencies and translate them into the sounds that they're being emitted from. So life is precisely the same way, where when you arrange, when molecules and chemicals and atoms constellate themselves in a particular pattern, aka the pattern of a body, a organism, a human, a cat, a dog, a bird, a deer, when molecules and atoms arrange themselves in a certain way, that's like the radio tuning itself to the proper station. And when the atoms arrange themselves in the pattern of a body, of an organism, it allows for the frequency of consciousness to be transmitted through it. Because prior to life in existence, there was just sort of this chaotic soup of atoms and molecules and chemicals and all this stuff. But then eventually, according to science, just here on Earth, life began to be born. And what this is molecules and atoms that arrange themselves in a particular pattern allowed for this energy of consciousness to be received by it and animated through it, where consciousness is kind of like the radio waves, unperceived, where we aren't picking up on them until, the consciousness is not being picked up on until there is a body to receive it. Now, I am implying here that every form of life, be it a single-celled amoeba, or a deer, or a dog, or a bird, or a human, contains consciousness, because consciousness is the very responsiveness to reality, the physical world. So a body, whatever body you want to think of as well, like an animal or a human or whatever it is, a body is like a radio that's been tuned to the station of consciousness. And consciousness is a frequency that's being transmitted by, I guess you could call it like the radio station of source, of God, of the divine, of spirit. Whatever name you want to put on it, it doesn't matter. It's the idea that there is this energy, this frequency that's being emitted from this creator, from this source. You call it source energy and God and creator and all this kind of far out stuff. There is an energy being emitted from this creator, from this source, and that's consciousness. And when the physical world orients itself in a pattern that is like a body, that pattern is able to tune into the frequency of consciousness, and consciousness begins to animate through it. And that's what we call life. Life is the animation of consciousness through materials. And this is a really special thing because, when you look at, this is the kind of like the question of what came first, the chicken or the egg. But let's just, leave that behind. It said, give us one miracle and we'll explain the rest. So let's leave that behind and look at a woman who's pregnant. And it's the moment of she's not pregnant because it's the moment of conception where the sperm cell meets the egg. It's a sperm cell and an egg. You could call that theoretically life, but it's not an animated being. It's not a sentient organism. It's not an actual form of life yet. I mean, it's a form of life, but you get the point. It's not a being. The sperm cell comes into contact with the egg, and suddenly it's been shown on like different microscopic representations or demonstrations rather, that when the sperm cell meets the egg, there's like this, it emits this like explosion of energy within the egg. It's like this explosion of energy, and it's so beautiful, and it's theorized that this is like the moment of life entering the body or the soul or whatever it is. But see, what this is this, it's simply put, a miracle. It's literally a miracle. And that's what the idea of spirituality is oriented towards, is the spiritual, divine, mysterious, and miraculous nature of reality. Where when the sperm cell comes into contact with the egg and fertilizes the egg, that is the material world orienting itself it's tuning itself. The sperm cell coming into contact with the egg tuned that form in such a way where consciousness was able to be received by it and animated through it. And see, here's the really fun part, where when, because what we have right now is when a egg is fertilized, when life is born, whether it's an egg being fertilized or, asexual reproduction of like cells dividing and stuff like this. When life is born, when life becomes present, when a life form, a cell or a body or a human fetus is fertilized, you know what I'm saying? Consciousness is able to be received by it. That's what animates that form, that little fertilized egg. And see, there's theory and question of what starts first. Does the heart pumping tell the brain to work and make the brain start working? Or does the brain start and tell the heart to start pumping? You know what I'm saying? What starts first? What is it that enters the fertilized egg that allows it to begin this process we call growth and cell reproduction and life? What is that? Well, in my understanding, what it is kind of like I was describing a moment ago, when the material world orients itself in a particular way, life, the body of a life form, consciousness is received by it. Whereas it's said that the brain and, consciousness is created by the brain, I personally believe that consciousness is something received and translated by the brain. We're receiving consciousness, not creating it. We're tuned into whatever awareness is, rather than it being this electrical impulse within us. So consciousness begins to be animated through life. And here's the fun part. When what comes into the conscious body matrix leaps a soul. Now, a soul is a unique, individual variation of the pure form of consciousness. You can think of a soul like a wave on the ocean, where the wave is not separate from the ocean. The wave ultimately is the ocean, but it has its own distinct form and its own distinct dance, its own distinct rhythm. It's its own thing, although it's still unified with the totality of the ocean. That's what a soul is. A soul is a subjective experience of consciousness. And when consciousness begins to animate through a life form, that's when a soul comes into the picture. Now, the way that this soul can be described and sort of, backed up, if you will, is it's the idea of how, like, two identical twins raised in the very same household can have completely different personalities. They're completely healthy, they're completely identical beings, but there's a different spark within them. And this is because a soul is what finds its home in the body of something that consciousness is animating through. Put simply, in a nutshell, when a life form is born, there is a soul animating through it. There is a soul expressing through it. It's the same reason why different personalities are born out of twins, in the same house. Like, I literally have 2 twin baby brothers. Like, my little brothers are twin. Not identical, they're fraternal twins, but nevertheless, they're 2 completely different individuals. And it begs the question, what prompts that difference? What is that difference? Why are we different? You can call it a personality on a psychological level, but I like to take it a step further in seeing that something is being born into the body. Now, if you've ever witnessed the passing of a loved one, or a pet being put down, or something like that, I've seen both of them, it becomes very apparent immediately that what it was you loved about that pet or about that loved one was not their body, but that which animated the body. It becomes very apparent that what it was that was animating their body, aka the person you loved or the pet that you loved, left upon the time of death. I remember seeing my cat get put down, and I don't mean to bring up morbid stuff, but hey man, it's reality, it's reality. And I saw my pet get put down, and when they gave her an overdose of an anesthetic, that's how they euthanized her. And I remember she was sitting there, and they started injecting it, and suddenly she put her head down, and she stopped moving. A complete stillness. Not the kind of stillness you see when you're laying in bed, because if you look at somebody, you see their chest moving, they're breathing, they're moving. And I saw a complete stillness go through her whole body. Everything just like that. Whoosh. Something left her. Now, you can argue that, the body just died and she just died, that's all. The way that I personally look at it and the way that I intuitively feel towards it is that by being injected with that overdose of the anesthetic, it caused the body, the constellation of atoms and chemicals and materials, to no longer be able to sustain life. And therefore the consciousness, no longer able to sustain consciousness, right? And so the soul departed it. The body is the vessel of consciousness, so obviously if the body is traumatized or given a lethal dose of an anesthetic, or whatever it is, however the body dies, sickness, illness, all this stuff, your soul, and with that, the consciousness, can no longer animate through it. And this becomes very apparent when we witness death in our life, that something stops animating through the body. The body stops. Right now, the one who's watching this video is the soul that I speak of. You are a soul looking through your eyes, hearing what I'm saying. Right now, what you're seeing is the vessel of what it is that I am. The soul that I am. The soul animates through this body. The soul is that which moves and gestures and talks and expresses and has its unique and individual characteristics. In the same way that you're different than me. That is the uniqueness of the soul manifesting through the body. Now, what this brings up is the idea of, in Hinduism, what's called the Atman and the Brahman. The Atman is the soul. The Brahman is the all-pervasive consciousness. Kind of like I was talking about of how the soul is like a wave on the ocean of consciousness. It's not separate than it, but it's a unique individual dance of the ocean. That's what your soul is. That's what my soul is. That's what everybody and everything's soul is a unique expression of the one supreme consciousness of all. Because at the end of the day, it's the same awareness, but from a different vantage point, from different vantage points. We're all experiencing reality. Right now, you feel like I am watching a video. But over here, I am making a video. It's the same I, but it's being spun through two different vantage points. And what I'm saying here is that I is the very same. And the vantage points that it's being spun through are what create the unique individual characteristics that differentiate you and I. But the consciousness, the very awareness, the innate essence of awareness itself is the same. Now, to bring up another philosophy of Hinduism, there is what's called the Purusha and the Prakriti. Prakriti is all the form, all the chemicals, all the atoms, all the gases and the molecules and the carbon and the water and all the materials, all the stuff. Prakriti is the physical world. Purusha is, on one level, you could think of it as the space or the fabric which holds all of the form. All this stuff, all these physical materials, and you look in outer space, Prakriti is all the stars and the nebulas and the black holes and the galaxies and all the stuff, the comets, the asteroids, all the materials. Purusha is that which holds all of it. It's the space in which, it's the fabric that all the stuff is happening in. And Purusha is also the spirit that animates the Prakriti. Purusha shines through Prakriti, and when Purusha shines through Prakriti, that is life. That is awareness. That is consciousness. When you witness somebody die, or you witness a pet being put down, what you're witnessing is Purusha, life force, prana, leaving the vessel that it was animating. So now what you're left with is a shell, the vessel, an empty vessel of what you loved. What you loved about that vessel was not the shell. It was that which was within the shell, what animated the shell. And when that leaves, the shell returns to Prakriti. It returns to nature. It returns to earth. Now, spirituality is the understanding of this transcendent consciousness that is animating the physical world. The opposite of spirituality is sort of a physical vantage point, that this is just molecules and atomic chaos, and it's just a fluke. That this life that we're experiencing right now, and all your emotions and thoughts and dreams and visions and aspirations and wonder and happiness and love, is all just this electric impulse from an array of chemicals within the body, and consciousness is, it's this physical theorization of consciousness. But spirituality, the real defining characteristic of what spirituality is realizing that there is something beyond the physical. There is spirit transcendent of the physical world, where there is something, there is a energy, there is a frequency, there is a source from which this energy is being emitted that is able to animate through the physical world, the physical form. And it's this feeling that you are not just your body. You are not just your mind. You feel that consciousness is not created by your brain, but rather your brain is this profound configuration of chemicals and molecules and all that stuff that allows for this mysterious and miraculous thing called consciousness to be received by it. And when consciousness enters that body, poof, life, growth, animation, expression. Now you may be wondering, what the hell is the point of all this? I have no idea. Everything I've just said is just me and how I feel. We're all here in the same mystery. Atheists, Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, scientists, all of us are in this soup of a mystery, this mysterious, miraculous, whatever. A lot of the time on my live streams on YouTube, people are like, what is this? What do you believe in? What's God? What religion are you? And my answer is just always like, Look around, like look at this mystery. Feel into this mystery. This isn't normal, man. Obviously, our minds get ingrained in a rut of normality, but when you break free from that, aka when you awaken to your spiritual nature, you start to realize that this is everything but normal. This is a profound mystery. And it doesn't matter if you believe in God or spirit or whatever, or if you think consciousness is just electrical impulses in the brain. It doesn't matter. It doesn't dismiss the ineffability of the mystery of life. Now see, spirituality is not something that you learn. You don't take a course in spirituality in the same way you go and learn how to fly a plane or learn how to build a car. Spirituality is an awakening that you have. It'd be like walking down the street and suddenly you awaken to how to build a car. Oh my God, you know what I'm saying? It's not something you learn. It's not education. It's not knowledge. Spirituality is something you awaken. It's this sort of uncontrollable, unwilled thing that just kind of happens. And what's happening, to put it as simply as I can, like in my understanding, is it's consciousness itself realizing the game it's playing. The veil of separation that it's playing. And that soul, that individual soul, is realizing, holy crap, I am the universe playing the game of a human. And that's when you get the whole weird head trip of like you see somebody who's not spiritual and you say, they're like an NPC, they're lost in the veil, they haven't awakened, and your ego really comes online with all that, Spiritual awakening is no joke, and it's to be taken lightly and to be revered and not rushed. But it's essentially the soul realizing the magic, the ineffability, and the transcendent nature of itself, of yourself. Realizing what I am is reality itself. I'm not my name, I'm not my species, I'm not my age, I'm not my job, I'm not my hobbies. What I am is that which exists, which is reality itself. It said the soul does not exist. It is existence itself. The soul does not love. It is love itself. The soul is not wise. It is wisdom itself. Really feel into that. You don't exist. You are existence. Fundamentally. That's that step back into the supreme self. The soul may think it exists. I exist. But the Brahman, the Atman being the soul, believes it exists. I exist. I am aware. I am. But the Brahman, the supreme self, the deeper self, if you will, is the very existence that the ego or the soul thinks it is, if you can hear that. The Brahman is existence. The Purusha is existence. But when Purusha animates through Prakriti, animates through form, there arises a soul. Now you may be wondering, what's the point of a soul and all this crazy talk that I'm sharing with you? Well, in my opinion, the point, like I said a moment ago, I have no idea. I'm right here with you, homie. But the idea, the way that I feel about it is that it's a game of veiling so that we can experience this right now. The way it is, this is the point. Right now. We're playing this game of separation and veiling ourselves from ourselves so that we can watch YouTube videos and make YouTube videos and experience love and experience rejection and experience betrayal and experience happiness and joy and pain and sadness and loss and fame and gain and name and shame. We're manifesting as all these seemingly separate individuals so that we can experience reality the way we're experiencing it right now. I think it was Alan Watts that proposed the idea that, being God, just God being God and no form, no different, it's boring. You're just hanging out as God. So what God did is he veiled himself in you and I so that he could find himself. He could play the game of finding himself, seeking himself, longing back for himself, yearning for himself. It's playing this long, drawn-out game of hide and seek, and the reason is for the hell of it, for fun. It's all for fun. It's all for fun. It's up to you to find that meaning, to discern that meaning. What does it mean to you? It's not about finding the fundamental meaning. To me, the way I feel about it is that it's a game. It's in Hinduism, and as you can see, I've been like stating a lot of Hindu terms and Hindu verbiage and philosophy and all this stuff, and you can see that Hinduism is something that I both resonate deeply with and am greatly influenced by. Hinduism is something that I feel a great calling and affinity to. I mean, like, look at all my beads and my beads. I got friggin' Ram tattooed on all of my fingers, you know, a Hindu god. Hinduism is like the thing that I have a very high affinity towards. But you know, in Hinduism, there's something called Leela. I actually have a cat named Leela. And Leela means divine play. The divine play of God. Now, what Leela is when you have a bad day and it just seems like one thing after another is stacking up and it was all, like, it seems like the world is against you and it's like so ironic and like, oh, go figure, one thing after another. That is Leela. That is a divine play. It's a performance. And what it's doing is it's trying to catalyze awakening in you. It's trying to awaken you. Leela is this life that we're a part of. All our relationships, all our friends and family and pets and misfortunes and elations and letdowns and all of it is the divine play. And the point of the divine play is to come back into awareness of who we really are. Come back into a place of love, of wisdom, of integrity between our body, mind, and soul. Come back into a place of insight, of appreciation, of looking out and saying, wow, isn't this wonderful? Isn't this profound? Isn't this just a journey? The Leela is the point, the play. It's about playing. And the way that the play is going down is conducive to your awakening. It has your best interest in mind. The end result is awakening to the mystery and to the beauty and the infinite wonder of this experience. So if I were to put spirituality in a nutshell, that's all of it. It's the all-pervasive consciousness veiling itself as you and I so that we can play this long, drawn-out game of rediscovering ourselves. And the game that we play to do that is one of coming into a place of love and wisdom. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments about like what the hell I'm talking about or any insights or anything, don't feel afraid to leave that down in the comments because I would love to read about it, you know. And yeah, this is how I feel about reality, man. And I know it's far out. Like if you've made it this far, I know it's far out and it's not like average normal by any stretch of the imagination, but it's how my soul feels and what I've gathered, you know, over the years of this spiritual path. So if you liked this video, give this video a like. It really helps get this video spread out and recommended to more people like you. And consider subscribing to the channel because I post content like this every single week and I greatly appreciate it more than words could ever convey. So with that said, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you all in the next one.